This is not a review of Invincible, nor is it a video just telling you to go watch it. But, Invincible is very good and you should go and watch it. This video is about Invincible, and how it tackles a superhero story, paying respect to where it originates from. The origins of superheroes are directly tied to the origin of comic books. The stories and origins of superheroes are connected to the medium in which they are presented. From Batman's no-killing rule to Hulk's distinct green color, superheroes were built off the rules and constraints of comic books. Superheroes do not exist without comic books. Though, for as long as Hollywood has been trying to adapt comic book stories, they have been ignoring the medium through which they originate.
You actually go outside in these things? What would you prefer? Yellow spandex?
An easy example of this is someone like Zack Snyder, someone whose interpretation of characters like Batman was controversial, to say the least. The thing is though, even good Batman movies created interesting lens that most audiences are viewing these characters through. The Dark Knight, while being a great movie, still seems to try and hide its comic book roots. Heath Ledger's Joker, the crown jewel of the movie, is definitely not a comic Joker. He's a great character still, but he is a Hollywood adaptation, purposely disregarding the comic book source material in favor of a character they feel is more deserving of a film role. When Hollywood sees a great superhero from a comic, their idea is not to adapt the comic, but rather take its ideas and adapt them for a Hollywood movie. The MCU has definitely been running into this problem. In the beginning, audiences were probably less willing to make the leap of faith that superheroes require, so Hollywood execs would help ease the audience into the idea of superheroes by making their worlds similar to our own. Iron Man, the MCU's first movie, is still in a large part about the fallout of 9/11, where the villains are literal terrorists. The idea of the movie is not to adapt the comic Iron Man stories, but rather place Iron Man into the real world that actually exists, with real problems we actually experience. And while it worked back then, with the comic book character just being a man in a suit of armor, as the MCU has introduced more wacky and out there heroes, this method can actually pull us out of the movies. At the end of Eternals, where this weird troll thing shows up, apparently his name is Pip, it takes you out of the movie. When the MCU has spent so long establishing that the world's logic is similar to our own, when we see a character like this, it just feels off, because it doesn't feel like this creature could exist in our world, so it shouldn't exist in the MCU's world either. Part of this is due to the bad CGI, but it's also partly due to the expectations set up by Marvel. So when you see this character, you just think, what's next? Air Bud? Actually, I want that. Can we see that? That being said, Pip the Troll is a comic book character, created by Jim Starlin, the guy who wrote The Infinity Gauntlet, what Marvel based their most successful pair of movies off of. Pip the Troll, whether a minor character or not, was a character created by one of Marvel's most important writers, and he deserved more respect than what he got. And we'll probably never see him again, because this movie sucked. The time of treating comic books as second-class art is over, and they deserve the same respect that all forms of expression get. This is the very reason that makes Invincible so great. It is not an insult to comic books or the art form, but rather a love letter to their potential. The original Invincible was a comic from 2003 created by Robert Kirkman. A Kirkman quote that really stands out to me is, "Superheroes are inherently stupid." And that's awesome. Superheroes are dumb, they are stupid, they get arbitrary rules based off cringe guidelines, they get names like Pip the Troll. But that is what makes them cool. I think Kirkman understands this, and he wrote a pretty great comic out of it, which turned into a pretty great show. The Invincible show, also created by Robert Kirkman, further extends its ideology into the television format. When you really think about it, adapting comic book stories into live-action movies doesn't make a lot of sense. They're a drawn art form, so animation works great as an extension of it. One of the few things the Japanese got right. In live action, people age, their looks change, they cost a lot more to get to play the part, and they also have to not even just play the part, but also look it. The issue is not there with animation, which leaves these animated universes open to maximum possibilities. And with comic stories, you need those possibilities, because weird things can happen. There is no issue between animating a human and a troll, no CG to get in the way of your expectations. They require about the same amount of work, the same amount of respect. I think this is illustrated really well in Invincible when Mark opens a door and oh my god, it's fucking Air Bud. Comic culture is a hard thing to understand. There's almost a century of history now, and it can be easy to look at all of that and feel overwhelmed. So I think when adapting comic stories to wider audiences, people can want to dumb it down, make it simpler for the audience. While that definitely worked in the beginning, most people are familiar with comics by now. We can allow for stories and art that are more indulgent in comic cultures, the stories that it creates. Thus, Invincible is great because it is distinctly a superhero story, full of the tropes, full of the powers, and full of the heart. There is a clear love for superheroes that drives the show, and respect for where they come from. That is why I want to talk about Invincible. So if you haven't already, go watch the goddamn show. Goodbye.